Hi Jim, I just wanted to go over a couple things with you. I want to let you know that we ordered the electric, we ordered the electric choke, so you won't have the manual. Possibly be here today. If not, I'm assuming probably Monday. I'm going to clean up a few things. This trans wire is a little kind of weird. It's a couple like details like that. But I wanted to show you some other stuff. This is your new distributor. The other one was worn out. You've got all your belts are now straight and true, and we took out all the stacks of washers, and we just machined spacers and painted them, so they look nice. They just work. They do what they're supposed to do. I wanted to show you some of what I was talking about when I sent you the message about the fan shroud, and what we have here is this one doesn't actually fit. You can see there's a huge gap here with the, it's a half-inch gap all the way across. The whole point of the shroud is actually to sit flush against the radiator, and it forces all the air to go through the front. But when you have these giant gaps, it'll suck air here. It'll always suck air through the easiest place. So it'll actually want to suck air around the radiator. So the other thing we have is it's kind of hard to show in here, but the fan is actually too small for the shroud. You're supposed to have about 1 inch of clearance total, and this has 1 inch of clearance on each side, so 2 inches of clearance. It's another thing where the fan, if it will suck air through the side here, it'll just loop around if the fan is too small for the opening. The other thing I want to do is a thermostatic fan clutch, which is a fan that spins freely when it's below temperature. When it gets up to a certain temperature, it'll spin almost the same speed as the engine. So it's kind of on demand. They came out with those when the air conditioning came out and they just work better. This fan is drawing air all the time, even when you don't need it, even when it's kind of cool out. It's going to overcool, and when it's always going to rob horsepower, and it's going to give you poor gas mileage. With the thermostatic fan, because it's only on when you need it, it has no drag when you don't, and it allows for quicker allows for quicker warm-ups because it's not cooling so quickly, and it's just better. Like, all cars switched to those before they went to electric fans. That was how it was. So that's all stock parts. That's all 67 Mustang parts. I can just order them from a 67 Mustang place. We'll get the appropriate fan shroud, the appropriate fan, and the appropriate fan clutch for a 67 Mustang with air conditioning. One thing I can't do much about, what I'll probably do is, here there's a big gap between the radiator and the condenser. I'll probably put a piece of rubber or something here to try and force more airflow through, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it because the condenser is actually quite a bit smaller. Normally you would have this really close to the radiator, and you would have it sealed so that all the air would have to go through the condenser when you want to use it. Otherwise, like again, it's the same thing as the shroud not fitting. It's easy to suck air around the condenser. So if you have inadequate cooling, what we can do in the future is maybe look into putting an electric fan, a pusher fan in the front. And if you're not having a problem, we're not going to do anything. So you'll have to find that out on your own as you're hopefully driving the wheels off this thing. So the other thing we had yesterday was put this car in gear. I got it off the ground and put it in gear with my foot on the brake, and the rear wheel didn't even slow down. So now you got this four-wheel disc brake conversion. It certainly should be easy enough to hold the rear brake when it's not, the car's not even moving, and we're talking idling. So the wheels may be spinning 5 miles per hour. The thing you notice in here is you've got a proportioning valve. Proportioning valves are there for pressure. You generally use that with disc in the front and drum in the rear, because disc operates at usually about 1600 psi and a drum operates at 800 psi. So if you're putting 1600 psi to something that only takes 800 psi to operate, you obviously have double what you need in one part. So there's something off with the math of this. I don't know what it is. Usually disc brakes are compensated. You usually don't need a proportioning valve. You just, because it's the same pressure. What you normally have is a smaller caliper and a smaller rotor in the rear, and a larger caliper and a larger rotor in the front, so that the front does more work, but the pressure doesn't change. They still need the same pressure to operate. So I'm not sure what needs to be done with that yet. I haven't even looked into it. Today I'm also going to do like a check the vacuum on this when it's running, and if it has high vacuum like I expect it to have, then I'll probably disconnect the electric vacuum pump that you have and just run it to the manifold, and we just get rid of complications and extra parts. So anyways, so far it runs really well, and it's obviously raining this morning, so I look forward to taking it for a spin later. There's a couple things that kind of make me wonder. We got this power steering. It's really hard to show you. The one hose is too long, that it would have to be made, but it comes back here, kind of gets really close to the exhaust. The original restorer's idea was to put a heat shield around it, but it's really close to the exhaust. So we'll see. Let's see what we have to do. That may be something that might have to be addressed in the future. Might have to make a custom hose that is an appropriate length. Rather than this, we'll see. I don't have an answer at the moment. That's how this all goes. You know, you put it together and you start to see what you run into, and then you go from there, and we'll just knock it out as we see it. Sometimes you don't see problems right away. Sometimes we see things that we think are a problem and end up not being a problem. So I'll just I'll keep you informed, and I want to get this back to you soon before so you can enjoy it before the summer ends.